All right, and it looks like we are live. Welcome to our first iteration of the Political Roundtable talk show. This is largely an experimental pilot, but the point here is to have some discussion between people from all over the political spectrum over current events and other topics. We'll present some questions and just sort of talk about it. Today, we have 5 people here, including me. First, we have Nathan Doolin.
How's it going? I'm from San Diego, California. I would typically identify as a classic liberal or a minarchist.
Okay, we have Joseph Jackson.
Hi there, I'm from Augusta, Georgia, and I am a left libertarian.
Okay, we have Alan Flippo.
I am also from Augusta, Georgia. I also am a left libertarian.
Chris Lewis.
Hi, I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I identify as a classical liberal.
And I'm Amir Naji. I'm from Augusta, Georgia, but I'm tuning in from New York City, and I'm a Georgist. So we will start with the question, discuss the topic extensively for 10 minutes or so, take a break, and then discuss for another 10 minutes when we get back. So without further ado, let's start with the question. We had Donald Trump's campaign, and now we got The Rock running for president and Kid Rock running for Senate, both very geological. So what's going on? Why are we seeing so many non-traditional campaigns coming out of, seemingly coming out of nowhere?
I think people are generally disillusioned with party politics in the United States as we've seen them for the past, I'd say, 50 years. They're looking for non-traditional routes to traditional and honestly unresolved problems. But it's ironic because these people aren't running as independents. They're running along the party lines that have, at least from the perspective of these voters, have been not really useful at all. So it's, to me, it's like an interesting cognitive dissonance in the American voter.
Interesting. Anyone want to elaborate?
Well, I mean, it's the bread and circuses kind of idea when it came to with Roman politics, for example, and it does apply a lot to American politics as well. You're talking about people that are going to go on stage and they're going to give big promises. I mean, even Bernie Sanders, when he goes and says we're going to give everyone health care, that's a big point that people are going to want to vote for. Now, how does that relate necessarily to the to our candidates like Donald Trump, Kid Rock, and all that? Well, they use their charisma and they use their pull in society essentially to try to get them somewhere up higher, and they use these excuses like when Kid Rock went up on stage and started to basically berate single families and the like to get votes and everything. It garnered a lot of support. It was obviously a viewpoint that a lot of people support, and he's willing enough to be the mouthpiece for such an opinion. I think that really elevates the more radical and crazy ideas that come into our country.
Yeah, I would say with the rise of information technology, sort of in this big second wave of technology sharing or information sharing that we're seeing now, the first being historically sort of the printing press, where you get this whole change in the way people communicate. We're living in sort of a different time in history where more information is available than ever before. You're able to get your news very personalized to your worldview. And I think with that comes an increased, the ability to see almost anything as sort of a show. And in some regards, this last campaign in 2016 and sort of the rise of people like Kid Rock and The Rock, I feel they all represent a sort of shift towards the idea of politics as sort of infotainment in some regard. Trump, in his own right, sort of brings a fun, or not fun necessarily, but a engaging factor into politics that sort of makes him this archetypal villain to some and a hero to others that he is able to play with as an entertainer.
Interesting. Do you think, I mean, I feel like there have been non-traditional campaigns in the past. What makes that different now? Would you say it's the, in history there have been many, people that would be considered very popular in one aspect to society, try and break into a political career. I mean, have Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronald Reagan, they're both actors before they went into politics. How is that sort of thing different than what we're seeing now, though?
I would say that the difference is, to some extent, that the politicians of those days, especially generally the more flashy and sort of showmanship kind of campaigns, that are just so different from the norm are generally confined to smaller parties. Whereas in the case of Donald Trump, you actually see someone who's able to latch on to a pre-existing political base who already sort of idolize him as this capitalist ideal, this sort of person who's able to have what he wants, and you get someone who's actually, with a non-traditional campaign, able to cling on to a traditional party, and you bring in not only the supporters of the base of that party, but also people outside of the party who might support it.
Yeah, and then it's also the fact that you've got basically, if you really want to get technical with it, you had a man that would go out and really didn't have anything to lose. If he, Donald Trump, if he went and said some stuff that was just absolutely outrageous or absolutely horrible, all it was going to do is give him ratings. So he was kind of in a win-win situation. Either he takes the presidency and riles all the people up for making fun of people, like in the debates, man. The debates were more entertainment than in the primaries. They were more entertainment, really, than there was actual logical discussion going around. So it was either Donald Trump's ratings were going to go up or he was going to be elected to elected office. So really, what could possibly go wrong for him to go up and say a bunch of offensive stuff? Jeb is a mess. Jeb is a disgrace. All that stuff. Well, it doesn't really matter.
It's certainly something that we've never seen before in the case of Donald Trump. And I think what happened to work for him, now that I'm thinking about it, is it's saying like, okay, yeah, the standards for becoming president that literally anyone can run right now. Like, I would say like Barack Obama opened it up to, he kind of opened it up in a way that made it so that you didn't have like your typical very well connected political insider be the only kind of people that could run for president, right? But at least he had some sort of serious substantive policy, which you might not agree with it, right? But like people might not agree with it, but at least it was it was like a legitimate platform. With Donald Trump, he literally had no platform. He had a platform, but it wasn't very coherent, in my opinion. But he basically broke every single rule for literally everything, and he still made it. And I think in that sense, it's like opening it up even more so that like, oh, anyone can run for office right now. And now, Kid Rock, which would have been like Kid Rock running for Senate, unthinkable, like before Donald Trump's campaign. Like not even like within the realm of discussion 10 years ago. And now we're seeing this, and people it's becoming normalized, right? So,
for me, it goes back to the issues that haven't been solved. I mean, even though President Obama had a solid platform, he was very respectful, very professional. There are still a lot of problems that haven't been solved. People are starting to notice that, and they're feeling more and more disconnected from their lawmakers. Whereas now you have people like The Rock, Kid Rock, or Donald Trump who have already existed in our cultural mainstream. These people feel connected with them already, and since there's that weird connection that we have with people we've never met in the entertainment industry, there's this implicit trust in them. So I don't think we're going to see this end anytime soon, whereas previously an actor, entertainer running for public office such as Reagan, Schwarzenegger, was seen as kind of an anomaly, an aberration. This is going to be a pretty mainstream thing for a while.
Yeah, and I think the big difference is if the campaign that's being ran on is legitimate. I mean, when you saw Reagan run for office, he did everything as legitimately as he could. He looked very presidential, doing everything up to his debates and everything like that. And, sure enough, he was elected. When you really look at it, what did he do differently than Donald Trump did? Well, he didn't go and yell about how about how people were messes and grabbing people by the yoo-hoos or the yahoos or whatever. I mean, it really comes down to whose legitimacy is going to really be a positive factor for the United States. And I don't necessarily think that just because you're a celebrity, it's a bad thing to run for office. I just think it really matters of what are you going to do for the country. If your basis is just let's build a wall, that's not necessarily going to help the country. At least it might help some people, but it's not going to help the whole country. It's just it's a talking point is all it is.
It does sound like a concrete answer, though. It sounds like a concrete answer that people can hold on to and run with. And that's what people are looking for and clamoring for, because they're like, we're in a time of immense change. A lot of things are in flux that makes people uncomfortable, and it makes people afraid. And so they clamor for those. This is a simple problem. This is a simple solution. We're just going to build a wall. Everything's going to take care of that. So I think we're going to see a lot of nuance
Yeah.
retreat,
Yeah.
evaporate.
I was going to say, in terms of it, you've also got one of the big factors, because we're in an economic upturn, relatively speaking, after the Great Recession. So to some extent, someone like Obama might sit there and wonder, like, why are we having this shift in a good economy? You'd think surely Hillary ran more or less on the idea of we're going to continue the progress and it will continue to grow. But you have this idea of changing a candidate amidst a good economy, because I would imagine to some degree people are still very much afraid, especially in the Republican camps, of the impacts of globalism on their well-being, their daily lives. The idea of losing coal jobs in coal country, scares off a lot of people, because it's a shift that they will have to adapt to, even if they'll be able to adapt to it well. And I feel as though I get the general sense that the fear of increasing globalization does scare a lot of people. And having someone like Donald Trump who promises, well, we're going to build a wall, it's going to keep all of the people who will steal your jobs out, we're going to tax the hell out of China, or we're going to have a trade war with China because that'll stop that. You've got this person who's just, thumping these very, very wide and probably almost definitely implausible policies as a way of counteracting this climbing fear of another recession, that I think is sort of a way that he was able to manage his campaign in a way that was pointedly effective.
Yeah. We got a few minutes before our break. I know time has already kind of run out for this.
I went quick on that one.
Yeah, we went really quick. But let's go round robin, and let's talk about this question really quickly. Going off of what Joseph said, Donald Trump has all these promises about building a wall is a very non-traditional stance. Round robin, I'll go for each one of you. Do you think non-traditional candidates, are they any more effective than traditional candidates in bringing about change? And how would that impact your own ideological view or achieving your ideological goals? So let's start with Nathan.
Well, I think that to the first part of the question, is it more effective or is it any less effective? I wouldn't be able to say either way. It depends. Everybody's obviously going to run their own campaign when they run for office. Now, someone that runs a campaign like Arnold Schwarzenegger and someone who runs a campaign like Kid Rock, obviously they're going to have different effects and different ways that they affect everything. I think it really depends on the individual and what legitimacy they're going to bring to the country, obviously. So I mean, I can't say that Kid Rock going on stage and saying, single moms and dads are deadbeats and they're scum of society, while he goes and makes these really cheesy rap lines about his political campaign without actually offering any substance. I can't say if that's good or not. How does that relate? How does that relate to to my current ideology? I would say that, it really depends. If The Rock ran as a libertarian, it would basically be kind of in that vein, I would imagine. It would all depend if he's going to make the liberty movement look like a bunch of idiots, much like Mr. Fat Dancing guy on the stage. I don't know. I couldn't say. It all depends on how it's ran, man. It all depends.
All right. How about you, Chris? What do you think?
Well, I don't think that the idea of a non-traditional person running for a political office is bad. I just I feel like why it's has such a big pushback now is who is the people that are actually running for it. Donald Trump, he's a reality TV star. Kid Rock, he had a corny music career. The Rock, he's an actor. WWE, so it'll be different. I feel like it'll be very different if we had if like Neil deGrasse Tyson came up and said, yeah, I'm going to run for, office. Then it's like, okay, well, I could see that. I just think it's showing, that how, I don't know, I guess how fragile the political system is, or how not sacred it is from what people thought it was. Now, do I think these non-traditional candidates could work out? Yeah, sure. It just depends who it is. I feel like in a way non-traditional candidates is I think that's really interesting in a way, because it shows, I guess it gives the common man a way to think like, hey, if he could be president, well, shit, why can't I? Like, you know, that's saying like anybody, you know, you could be the you want to when you grow up may actually hold some water now.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, in ancient Rome, they would have like a thing where like I don't know exactly, you know, the qualifications for it, but like, you know, like a farmer could become a dictator, and if he was called to it. And I think was it Cincinnatus? He was eventually
I'm not familiar with Roman history personally, but
well, I mean, I don't know. Somebody will probably correct me, but I think it's Cincinnatus. He was like a farmer, and then you know, eventually the citizens like they're like, hey, you know, this guy should be a leader. Then he became like, you know, one of the most famous figures in Roman culture and history. So I feel like if Rome could make it work, and they lasted what fucking 2,000 years, then we could definitely make it work in the modern era. So yeah, you know, let's just hope, you know, we get some good candidates.
Yeah, so let's move over to Joseph. What do you think?
I think the idea of a joke candidate is a time-honored tradition in America. From the early, I mean, you had people that you had a woman that ran actually in the 1800s under a very, very radical campaign. I forget her name, but that was, and she is just one of a multitude of joke candidates or very like serious minority candidates that ran and have run on very, very radical policy changes, all from the legitimate to, you know, to give everyone a pony. So I think the importance of joke campaigns is a necessary part of a thriving democracy. Whether or not they are more effective as government, I really think it has to be, you have to look at it case by case. I mean, you could argue, for example, that Trump as a politician, as a sort of a non-branded campaign, is not very effective at governing. And has been mostly just a sideshow for a lot of his presidency. You could also argue that they could be really effective in some circumstances. So I think the jury's out on that, but I do believe that joke candidates, and really just candidates that are not in the mainstream, can provide people with a very radical alternative, or at least get people thinking about the policies they want. I think Bernie Sanders did a really good job in some regard, changing the narrative of the Democratic Party in a way that no one anticipated. And that in and of itself can attest to maybe not joke candidates so much, but these people with radical ideas who come in and can help change the narrative. I think that can be very, very potent and powerful, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, it's like the Overton window, which changed depending on what the I guess mainstream discussion is. You know, we weren't talking about universal health care before, now we are. We weren't talking about building a wall, well, here we fucking are, right? I mean,
by the way, I think the person in question you were talking about is Gracie Allen. I could be wrong.
Let me check and see. I think so.
Because she literally ran on the surprise party. So anyway.
Yeah. So over to you, Alan. What do you think?
Whether or not non-traditional candidates are effective for government, I can't really say that as a blanket statement. I don't think joke candidates are effective. I mean, clearly they can backfire, as we've seen. Ultimately, it comes down to the legitimacy and viability of their platform. You know, they can be non-traditional but have a solid platform and do fine. And also their ability, and not just what they're claiming they can do, but what they can actually do, their ability to execute that platform. And we're entering a new paradigm in American politics. It's definitely worrisome, to say the least, regardless of what part of the political spectrum you fall on. But we'll have to see. I think this is a very interesting time.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And with that, I think we'll start the break, and we'll come back with some more stuff for everyone. So thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Cut. All right. Awesome. Wow, that was very good.
I'll be back in just a minute.
It still says
so Alan, you have to go.
I think I'm going to go ahead and bounce out. That seems like a good point.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll mention it when we get back that they have to leave early, but so then everyone's like now wondering where you went. So, but yeah, awesome.
I'll also be right back. I've got to go do something real quick. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
I look forward to doing this again, y'all.
Yeah.
Hasta luego.
What did you guys think?
I think we got to turn
Oh,
up the
good.
memes.
What?
I think we have to turn the memes up.
Oh, it's gonna be easy.
I mean, that's what the break's for. Breaks for the memes.
Yeah, freaking.
I guess I don't know if like people that are watching are like all of us, and then like one person has a second tab open. But if there's anyone else that's watching, you can like, write something in the chat if there's something you want us to talk about. Or, feel free to be part of that. So.
Hey, just real quick, I can still totally hear this on the live stream.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you should listen to it on your way to church. And,
But all right, out.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know, man. I get really irritated with the notion that there's a guy that can go up on stage and like literally has like every sentence is gonna rhyme with the last. I'm talking about how terrible like single mothers are and shit like that. Oh, they're deadbeats, and all those fathers, they're deadbeats with no consideration of anyone's life situation. I mean, I understand that he's bitching about welfare, but then in one sentence he's saying, "Oh well, fuck welfare, but we're gonna give people welfare." It's like, what platform are you fucking running on? You were a hack of a musician. You were terrible at that, and now you want to make some relevancy. You think you're going to change the country around. You're probably drunk on fucking stage. I mean, there's just the look in his eyes looks like he's not coherent when he's. The
thing with him is like also whatever nonsense that Trump like got away with, like as far as like skeletons in his closet, like Kid Rock is like has so many more like.
Oh yeah,
he actually has a sex tape, right? That's like he actually has a sex tape out. That's a sort of like and he's really big drug user, made so many controversial statements. It's like the same thing as like if Ted Nugent wanted to run, and like
he tried, and he has actually tried, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's that sort of thing. People that like they don't really know what they're talking about, and they have shitty personal issues and stuff like that. And
I think those things are irrelevant. It matters if you have anything important to contribute to the American political scheme. It doesn't matter if you have.
That is true. I do agree with that, but I would say that like the campaign that he will run, it's going to be an even bigger test to like how much people can get away with when running for office, right? Like Donald Trump got away with a lot. I feel like that's going to be the kind of shit that like Kid Rock has done is going to like really test how much people are like willing to take in that sort of aspect of like accepting a candidate. And it's ironic that it's like a Republican candidate because they're the ones that are supposed to be like, oh, we're very moral people, like very religious, like seeing evangelicals like rally for Trump, rally for Kid Rock is just so bizarre, so ironic that just.
Well, I would, sorry to jump in here, but I actually did a lot of research on the evangelical movement, and to be honest with you, they see themselves, I mean, I can't speak for all of them, but the ones who are most politically active and tend to fall furthest right, by the way, I'm sorry for interrupting you, Amir. I really apologize.
We should have anything to say yet, so you can go for it.
Okay, yeah, let's start over. Let's finish the break. We actually have a comment in the live chat from a friend of mine, Swaru, who is saying, since you're talking about inexperienced candidates, talk about experience working against candidates like for Clinton. My take is that people view the experience as a resume building and not authentic. So that'll be like something that we can discuss.
Yeah, I actually worked on a campaign for in Atlanta for a little while, and I can tell you, like, I wrote a post on my blog about it, and it was just like some of it drained the life out of me because I had to do this because I was working with a campaign at the time, and I had to do it for the money, but my heart was not at all in it because of the nature of the person I was trying to support. And just, yeah, so I'd be more than happy to, I really would like to talk about that. Oh,
Actually, coincidentally, also I've also done a little bit. I did a lot of polling during the season, and it was mostly funded by the Clintons. But I definitely would have a lot to say about that as well.
By the way, the candidate I was talking about was from the 1872 election was Victoria Woodhull. She was a member of the Equal Rights Party, and she was she ran on the premise of women's suffrage and free love, and she was yeah. So yeah.
All right.
Okay. 1 second. Okay, so are you guys ready to start again? We're finishing the break now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me reset this timer. Let's do 15 minutes. Sound good?
Sounds good.
That's fine.
I said 10.
Hell, I'll go all night if you want.
All right, looks like we're back from a break, and we are ready to keep our discussion going. Alan had to drop out. He had something to go to, so he won't be joining us for this second part, but we have everyone else here. So let's start with a question from our live chat from Swaroop Bhagavatula. Do you think traditional candidates are disadvantaged? Some people view experience as resume building and not authentic. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can definitely hold against you. Look at how Hillary Clinton's experience was used against her in the election. When you're talking about one of these joke candidates, I mean, I would think that actually would help, because Trump did have previous experience when he was going into politics. I mean, you're talking about a guy who donated millions of dollars to Democrats and all sorts of people in politics, especially when you're talking about the real estate industry. It can be both. I mean, it really depends on that's subjective to whatever that experience actually entails. I would argue that Trump's experience in that area, although typically better for the government, not necessarily the people, is good experience when you're talking about making deals within political leaders and making sure that laws can get passed.
Okay, Joseph, anything to add to that?
We lost somebody.
Oh, I don't know where. I guess Joseph.
Joseph died.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? What do you think?
Rip.
Wait, hold on. I forgot the question.
So do you think, the question is, do you think experience is a disadvantage to candidates? Like in the case of Hillary Clinton, people gave her a lot of shit because she had been in the political arena for a long time, and they see that as a excuse to, well, it's more about, like, I guess, glory hunting and resume building rather than being an authentic candidate. Oh, just back to it.
Sorry about that.
I feel like
connection problems
with Hillary is that I don't know if that's like, because Hillary, like, I felt like, yeah, a good amount of the opposition was that, it's like, you're just doing this, fucking have another notch up, but I feel like a lot of it was she was so fucking shady,
Well, he had a lot of controversy with the Clinton Foundation, all this other stuff, right? And
just with fucking Benghazi and the Clinton Foundation shit in Haiti, like it was a fucking mess, and I was just, it was ridiculous. But could it be a disadvantage? Yeah, if you're like Hillary, fucking all types of crazy shit. But I feel like if you're like, like, hey, I've been a senator for oh so many years, and look at my district, it used to be a hellhole, now it's like nice and shit. Like, yeah, you could definitely do that, and I believe that would help your campaign. But I believe that if you were in like a high level of the government, and you were just there for like like decades, then you finally come out and say, yeah, I want to run for president, it does look kind of fishy, because it's like, oh, you've waited all this time, or at least to the common man, I could look at it and be like, hey, so, you didn't run before. I get it. The political climate might not have been right. You could have been forced to support another person. I think it just depends on the situation. It could be good or bad.
I think it will. I think the extent of, and Hillary is sort of a one-off candidate in my mind to some regard, because of the fact that her experience is indeed existent, but the way that people have taken, she has such a history in the media, and particularly in conservative circles, that was going to be worked against. Like any sort of experience and anything that could be found to work against her was going to be used to work against her. I take her idea of running for president as genuinely wishing to improve the country, but I wouldn't necessarily say that, I mean, as in terms of the Democratic Party, that she was necessarily the best candidate to field. It was inevitable that she was going to be the nominee. I already accept that. I said that on day one, but to some extent, I think that the extent to which your resume can really help build or break your candidacy has a lot to do with the way that you're already perceived socially, and it's a very multiply determined, factor. So.
Cool. So let's do one last question, and I mean it's the last question, but it's going to be one that probably generates a lot of discussion. Do you guys think politics will it ever be the same again after Donald Trump's campaign, or just in the past, however many years you would argue this has actually started?
I think American politics are, well, while this is nothing necessarily new, it's just elevated to a new level, I suppose. I don't think it's ever going to change. I think this is the future for American politics. We're going down the route of idiocracy, definitely. I mean, the one thing that like I said, kind of going back to the primaries with Trump.
They say it's a documentary now. That's what I heard. Right.
They say it's that's the meme. But I mean, when it really comes down to it, though, I mean, when you were watching, if you ever watched the presidential debates for the primaries of the Republican Party, the GOP, it basically was almost like watching. You weren't even watching it for the issues. You were just watching it because it was entertaining to watch Trump go back and forth. It was like WWE Super Slam, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, John Kasich, Marco Rubio this Sunday. It's like it's so comparable to like WWE. It's just like it's not even to be taken seriously. And then on the Democrat side, I mean, it really wasn't any better. It was, I believe that this should happen. Well, I believe that it should happen, but I think we should also make sure that we tax the rich millionaires over there on Wall Street. It basically wasn't any better, but it was much more entertaining on the Republican side, I would say, if that was the case.
Yeah, I remember playing drinking games to the GOP primaries. Yeah. So it's like whatever.
Yeah, it was so predictable and hilarious that exactly. I was actually playing a couple of those myself because it was just. You almost kind of have to when you're seeing this, and at the end of the day, after you've had your laugh, you almost kind of scared, like, now
But let's talk about it this way. Okay, let's assume Donald Trump, he may or may not be president in 2020. Let's say that he finishes his term. He's a special case, because he broke a lot of rules. He got away with a lot of stuff. But really, it's like if it's not Donald Trump being the successful non-traditional candidate, he has such a cult of personality that I don't know, would that transfer directly to any other non-traditional candidate just because they're non-traditional? Can someone else out Donald Trump? I don't know if that's actually a thing, right? So if we get to 2020 and let's say let's say for the sake of argument Donald Trump doesn't run again, and let's say it's some other Republican versus some other Democrat. But they both happen to be traditional, right? Are they going to do, or the crowd ends up being traditional, but you might have some non-traditional candidates. Are they going to do any better, do you think, based on what Donald Trump has done, or because it seems like he's a very unpopular president. He hasn't really had any substantive progress on any of his platform goals. Are people going to not care and then still take that risk, or are people actually going to learn their lesson?
I mean, historically, the length of the hindsight of the populace is generally short, and it's not due to lack of their own fault. It's to lack of salient present cues from society. So that's the reason why you have the idea of a strongman government or strongman politician is just such a theme throughout history and across cultures and across nations. Is that it's sort of a theme that can be very convincing to certain people under times of hardship or appearing hardship. So I feel as though, in some regards, Trump really fits the bill in that regard for a lot of people, and that was one effective part of his campaign. Apologies.
Yeah. Let's see.
I mean,
Chris,
as far as okay, go ahead, please.
Did anyone have anything else to add, or the
I mean,
that with the
I have plenty to add. I just don't want to talk over Chris.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Chris,
Will politics change after this? I mean, it might. I don't think there's just going to be some huge system upheaval or anything. It's just we just may see more celebrity candidates for a while until hopefully a new generation of politicians come in, because we've been like, fuck me, like how long have we had Hillary and John McCain and all these people like we've had this same group of people for like 20 30 years. But I guess now I think this is really going to be like an interim type thing until we get hopefully better choices and hopefully politicians with some integrity. And let me try and wrap it up right quick. Okay, so the market is going to reset eventually, and I feel like once that hits, like it's going to be shit. It's going to be like the worst recession we've seen since the Great Depression. It's going to be really bad, and I feel like it's going to be so bad that politicians are going to have to take more responsibility, care more about their actions, and actually actively want change. Because if they don't get our shit together, then they can't have their bribes and their corruption. So
that market reset,
yeah.
I think this year, correct? Or the market reset's supposed to happen this year, right?
This year, I mean, I don't think anybody knows a particular date. Me personally, I think it's definitely within the next 5 to 10 years.
Listen.
I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but there was an economist. He said that what might cause is going to be like a black swan event, and it's just going to like boom, like just fuck. Like when I wake up one day, I look on my phone, everything's going to shit. So
I think I mean, if I were to elaborate more on my point in terms of if politics will change, I think it remains to be seen what the effects of a recession or a depression might cause in the U.S. Certainly, I think we could talk about what might happen in Germany. What with the alternative for Deutschland gaining 10% of the popular vote, but in America, I think we're just really going to have to see, because I think on local levels many things will stay the same, but on gubernatorial levels and senatorial and Senate and presidential levels, we'll probably see more candidates with that kind of notoriety run. Although, to an extent, a lot of politicians who end up running for president tend to have a backed up by the knowledge of who they are as a candidate. Maybe, say, for Obama, you're aware of who the candidate is before they're running. There's already some kind of social geist about who they are and what they represent. So apologies. I just recognized I didn't really answer the question earlier, and I wanted to come back and speak my piece real quick. Sorry.
Sure. Really quickly, we have. Did you have anything else to add? I think we're about 2 minutes out before we have to wrap it up. So
okay,
if anyone else,
I'll make it very quick. I just wanted to say, can anyone out Trump? I don't know if that's going to ever be the case, out Trumping Trump. But what I can say about it is that Trump being elected opens a lot of doors as far as the what's the word I'm looking for? The tact, I guess, for a lot of for a lot of people's campaigns. I mean, you're talking about a guy who literally was on tape saying, I like to grab girls by the pussy, or, whatever word you'd like to use for that. But still, the point is, even despite this, still gets elected. Despite calling Rosie O'Donnell like a fat pig or whatever he calls her, still wins.
Right.
And regardless of all of those things, definitely the image of the American politics seems to be smeared. I think it would take someone going in another direction, but it definitely shows for sure that another Donald Trump can technically be elected. That there's no question about that, with the exception of maybe if like World War III happens with Korea.
Yeah. Hopefully that won't. Hopefully be. Hopefully we're worrying about a next campaign and not nuclear war.
Hopefully we're not worrying about it ever.
I can't say that. I can't be 100% about that at this point in time. But that's a discussion for a different day, I suppose. Anyone have anything else to add? We have like 30 seconds.
The Jets beat the Dolphins.
Whoop.
And the Falcons won.
Whoop.
Yeah, they won because of rules, and you damn well know we didn't.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for for watching, and yeah, have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
Taxation's left.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.